Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good
Waalaikumsalam.
evening, everybody. In this beautiful Friday evening, we will start the presentations, the continuations of the last material about stress. We will discuss about stress in complex and compound words. These presentations made by Aswel Burias, Anissa, Felicia, and Salma. Okay, we start into the first slide. Complex word. Okay, in English grammar and morphology, a complex word is a word made up of two or more grammatical units, morphemes, contrast with morphemic words. Okay, as we know, complex word may consist of one first the base word, the root, and one of more affix, for example, quicker, or second, more than one root in a compound, for example, blackbird. Okay, types. There are two types of complex words. The first one, words that made from affixes, which consists of basic word form, uh, is called stem, and an affix or more. Second one, compound words, which are made of two or sometimes more independent English words and also called the basic word. Okay, affix. What is an affix? An affix added to the front of a word is known as prefix, and added to the back is known as suffix. Maybe we already talked about this affix before in the previous material. So im as a prefix, pass as the root, the basic word, and able as the suffix. And then this. Okay, the affix may affect the stress placement of a word in three ways. The first, the affix itself, is where the primary stress is placed. For example, like in circle, the circle, the stress is in the first, in front of the in the first syllable, and if you put this affix in like in the semicircle, the stress is still on the first syllable. And second example, as person, when you put ality, the affix become personality, uh the stress is changed, placed into the second syllable. And the second, the word is stressed as if the affix was not there. Pleasant, uh, unpleasant, marketing. Okay, so in this, for example, the stress is not affected. The stress placement is on, and the third one, the stress placement is on the stem of the word, but is shifted to a different syllable. Like magnet, in the stress is in the first syllable, and magnetic, the stress is changed place to the second syllable. Okay, suffix and its effect in stress. The stress is some word change positions when suffix word endings are added or changed. For example, when you add the suffix ion to the root word accommodate, the stress move to accommodation. If you taking photograph, you could be a photographer. A photographer prac- practice photography, but his art is photographic. So you can hear this where the stress is placed, I guess. Wait. Some suffixes do not change the word stress. Common suffixes that do not usually affect word stress include full, ish, isn't, ist, if, is, or is, less, ment. Some example of these types of words like color, colorful, yellow, yellowish, extreme, extremism, nature, naturist, co- coercive, fantasy, fantasize, effort, effortless, amusement. So you can see the stress is not changed at all. Okay, some suffix do not change word stress. Some suffix do change word stress. Suffix that do affect word stress commonly have one of two effects. First, either the stress is placed on the syllable just before the suffix, or the stress is placed onto the suffix itself. Okay, let's take a look for example. Common suffix which normally place the stress onto the syllable just before the suffix include eus, ikal, eus, et. For example, it takes courage to seek help for an alcohol problem. It's courageous to seek help if you are alcoholic. So you can see the sorry, you can see the stress is changed because of the placement of the suffix. Okay, let's take a look at another example. He had told thought he was invincible until he experienced the acrimony in his divorce. He had so he has invincibility until he experienced his acrimonious divorce. Okay, and the next example, it's absurd to keep lions kept captive. Keeping lions in captivity is complete absurdity. Note that in the last example, the stress moved in captive to captivity, but does not move in absurd to absurdity because of the stress fall on the same syllable in both the original and the suffix word. Okay. Second one, common suffix which normally place the stress on the suffix itself include e, er, is. Example, we need to find a person from Portugal and employ them to work on the engine. We need to find some Portuguese to become an employee and work as an engineer. Okay, next example.
Okay. Oh, it is.
The next is prefix.
Traffic.
Prefix. Uh,
Ada salah.
prefix. Well, okay.
It's okay.
I will
Okay.
continue. Prefix are,
Okay.
prefix are generally accent neutral or are not pronounced with stress. Example for prefix are the, this, in, and various assimilate form like I, I'm, in, ir, mal, mis, pseudo, re, sub, and an. Instead, instead, the first syllable of the base form of the word is stressed. Example, deflate, disingenuous, incorrect, illiterate, immature, irrelevant, malfunctions, misreport, pseudo-scientific, redesigned, substandard, and unnecessary. In general, such prefix result in a doubled consonant when the prefix final and the stern initial consonant are identical. Example: unnecessary is pronounced with double length. These rules does not apply to in and its variants. So, for example, illogical is pronounced with only a single e. Okay. For this material will be explained by Salma all the time for you.
Okay, thank you, Rias. I will now explain about compound words. The first characteristic of compound words is that it can be analyzed into two words, both of which can exist independently as English words. Compound words are written in different ways. There are three. The first is closed form compound words, that is, when two words are combined into one without and they are written without a space. For example, bullfrog, railway, and snowball. The second is open compound words, that is, two words remain separate but are used together. For example, peanut butter, ice cream, and grand jury. And the final type of compound word is hyphenated compound words. This is two separate words are joined together by a hyphen. For example, is cost effective, long term, and father-in-law. And next slide, please. The different ways a compound word is written has an effect on the stress placement. Some compound words have a single stress, while others are double stressed. The more elaborate and compound words may even have several stresses. There are some patterns that can help in pronunciation, depending on the word class. The first is compound nouns. In a compound noun, the stress is located on the syllable of the first noun. For example, seafood, toothpaste, and football. The second is compound adjectives. In compound adjectives, the most stress is placed on the stressed syllable of the second word. For example, 10-meter, rock solid, 15-minute, old fashioned. Can you go to the next slide, please?
I'm sorry, but I think nggak tahu. I think
It's not
the
moving yet.
PowerPoint hasn't moved. So yeah, when you say after the compound words, it doesn't move. So yeah.
Next slide. As the presentation move. Mm, okay, next slide, please.
Oke, udah berubah ini.
Udah berubah. Okay, now third one. Okay, compound verbs. When there is a combination of two or more words, usually ending in a verb, to form a single verb, the stress will often be placed on the appropriate stress syllable of the first word. For example, house sit, waterproof, and window shop. Yes, the presentation has disappeared. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. It is safest to assume that for the majority of compound words, stress falls on the first element of the first word. However, a number of compounds receive stress on the second element or second word instead. The first word in such compounds often have secondary stress, For example, compounds with an adjectival first element and the ed morpheme at the end have this pattern given in spelling only. For example, bad-tempered, half-timbered, and heavy-handed. Next slide, please. Okay, compounds in which the first element is a number in some form also tend to have final stress. Like three-wheeler, second class, and five-finger. Of course, compounds functioning as adverbs are usually finally stressed, such as head first, northeast, and downstream. And finally, compounds which function as verbs and have an adverbial first element take the final stress. For example, the words downgrade, backpedal, and ill-treat. That is all for the presentation. We will now present a video, I think. Yes.
Yes, you're muted.
Belum di-unmute. Okay, maybe before we will going to quiz or question sections, we will showing you the video. Wait. Okay. Okay, wait.
I love cake. What's your favorite dessert? What's my...
Okay. Okay, can you all see the YouTube video?
Yes.
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 Okay. I will play. Can you hear
I
the
love
sound?
cake. What's your favorite
Yes,
dessert?
I can have.
Yes, we
hear
can.
the
My
sound.
favorite desert? Well, the Sahara is really big.
Mhm.
The Atacama is really dry. I think the Gobi is my favorite. Hi everybody and welcome back to Rude English. In today's video I'm going to be discussing word stress. Word stress is an important part of pronunciation, and incorrect word stress can cause confusion and a breakdown in communication. So, if you want to improve your pronunciation and understand the difference between words like desert and dessert, then keep watching this video. Exclusive areas. Thank you. But what does VIP stand for? It stands for very impotent person. What? I'm not impotent. Of course, what I actually meant to say was important. Very important person. However, if you accidentally put the stress on the first syllable, you say impotent, which is a condition that some men have, which means they're unable to have sex. This demonstrates the importance of word stress in English. If you use incorrect word stress, you could say a completely different word. So what is word stress? Word stress describes the stressed syllable in a word. A syllable usually contains one vowel and at least one consonant. Stressed syllables are longer, louder, and higher pitched than unstressed syllables. Stressed syllables are indicated by an apostrophe in phonetic transcription, and every word has one stressed syllable. You can see that the first syllable is stressed in impotent, and the second syllable is stressed in important. What do you notice about the unstressed syllables? The vowel sounds in unstressed syllables are usually reduced, and consist of the weak or I sounds. In the sketch at the beginning of this video, I said the word desert, which can easily be confused with the word dessert if the word stress is incorrect. A desert is a dry area of land, and a dessert is a sweet meal. You can see how the difference in pronunciation between the two words is essentially the difference between strong and weak vowel sounds. Some long words have a secondary stress, which is indicated by a comma in the phonetic transcription. For example, pronunciation, which puts a secondary stress on the second syllable. Secondary stress is weaker than primary stress, and it only occurs in long words. It's not very important, and you shouldn't waste time practicing it because it's unlikely to cause problems if you omit it. So how do we know which syllables are stressed? There are some rules that we can follow to help us understand sentence stress, but remember that there are lots of exceptions, and it's always best to use a dictionary if possible. Let's look at some of the rules now. In adjectives and nouns with just 2 syllables, the first syllable is usually stressed. For example, scary movie, massive building, wooden table, humid weather. In verbs with just 2 syllables, the second syllable is usually stressed. For example, destroy, revise, construct, agree. In compound nouns, the stress is usually on the first part of the word. For example, greenhouse, passport, football, hot dog. In compound adjectives and verbs, the stress is usually on the second part of the word. For example, middle-aged, old-fashioned, understand, overflow. In words that end in the suffix ik or sh, the stress is usually on the second to last syllable. For example, metallic, technician, decision, inflation. In words that end in the suffix c, t, f, g, or al, the stress is usually on the third to last syllable. For example, democracy, ability, geography, psychology, identical. Words that contain the same root word often contain the same word stress. For example, comfort, comfortable, discomfort, uncomfortable, comfortably, comforting. However, there are lots of exceptions. For example, photograph, photographer, photographic. The rules discussed earlier usually take priority, so word families don't always have the same word stress. Hello, IT support. How can I help you? Yes, hello. I think my computer has a virus. Okay, why do you think your computer has a virus? Because every time I log in, it says invalid. Invalid and invalid are heteronyms. This means they have the same spelling, but different pronunciation. Invalid is a noun, and it means a sick person or a hospital patient. Invalid is an adjective, and it means incorrect or untrue. There are many other heteronyms which differ only by the position of the word stress, and they can easily cause confusion. Some of them are related, but others aren't. So let's take a look at some common ones now. Record, record. Refuse, refuse. Present, present. Import, import. Export, export. Contract, contract. Object, object. You will notice that all the words that are stressed on the first syllable are nouns, and almost all the words stressed on the second syllable are verbs. Sometimes the same words can be stressed differently by different people. These variations often occur between different countries, but many occur within the same country. Some common examples include television, television, controversy, controversy, research, research, cigarette, cigarette. Where more than one word stress exists, I recommend you listen to the people around you and imitate the word stress that they use. Remember that you don't need to learn all of the rules in this video because there are lots of exceptions. And word stress is a part of the pronunciation that you memorize when you learn a new word. You can always check the word stress in a good dictionary if necessary. Well, that's the end of the lesson. Thanks very much.
Okay. Oh, stop sharing. Stop sharing. Okay, because we already seen the video. I hope the video will give you more comprehensions in the material and can differentiate the stress between another word. But before we go into the question sections, I have some quiz for you guys. So wait a minute. Mana quiznya dah?